I'm Sindrin, and I approve the content of this guide.
Hey guys, this is Sunsfan, and welcome to the official Dota Cinema Guide to Lich. If you aren't familiar with this hero, you may want to watch the introduction we did for him at the corresponding link. Sindrin and I also created a gameplay walkthrough of Neil using our guide in a game of his own. Lich is an intelligent support or offlane hero. He is unique in that he's able to get experience from his own creeps. Lich is a powerful lane support due to the sheer amount of harassment he offers, and transitions into a strong teamfight hero later on. When skilling Lich, you always want to adjust your build according to the game. There is, however, one standard skill build that will fit most of your purposes. Normally you want to take Sacrifice at level 1, so you can either give your mid or offlane a small advantage by denying one of their creeps. The level 2 should be put into Frost Blast so you can start harassing. From here, max out Frost Blast by 7, while generally maxing Sacrifice second. This will allow you to sustain the mana required to harass effectively. You'll also want to level your ultimate at the standard levels 6, 11, and 16. This leaves Ice Armor for last, but keep in mind that you could always get a value point of it earlier. Lich is mainly played as a support hero, so you'll have to buy a lot of support items for your team. If you are, however, playing a solo offlane Lich, you might want to skip some of them. The majority of the purchases, however, will still stay the same. For starting items, you want to either buy Courier or Wards. Together with that, get yourself a Tango and Salve for basic regeneration, a Ring of Protection, and Branch. In the early game, the first thing you want to do is upgrade your team's Courier. The next items will be Boots together with Magic Wand. Remember to buy new wards as soon as your old ones are about to run out, and always carry a TP scroll so you can help your team out. Boots of choice for Lich are Tranquils. In some cases you could go for Treads for extra stats, but typically Tranquils give you the best bang for the buck. You'll get great passive regeneration as well as more movement speed overall, which will help you in your rotations. After this, try to save up for a mechanism if no one else on your team is going to purchase it. Other choices include a Force Staff as well as a Yule Scepter, which is a great alternative for escaping or chasing, but it is a little bit on the expensive side. But in the end, you're still a support hero who has an okay time farming, so remember to buy and place as many wards as possible. In the late game, you have a lot of choices and you should purchase according to your situation. A Scythe of Vice is great for disabling the enemy carry and boosts your survivability. An Aghanim Scepter will increase the potential damage of your ultimate by a lot as well as making you more tanky. In addition, it will remove the bounce limit from Chain Frost, which I think is a little bit overhyped, but in certain situations could be quite powerful. The reason it's not as good as advertised is because it's rare that you actually get full bounces on your ultimate, as it's quite easy for the enemy team to spread out. But if you have great teamfight synergy, it can still be considered a solid pickup. In addition to this, a Veil of Discord is an undervalued item that will increase the damage of your ultimate and Frost Blast by 25%. Another underrated item is Ghost Scepter. It offers you protection against an enemy carry and buys enough time for you to cast your ultimate. There are a few luxury items you can purchase as well, but if you're able to afford them, the game is probably over anyway. Boots of Travel will increase your mobility by a lot, plus if it's a base race kind of a game, you might be the best choice to go help defend while your team pushes. Vladimir's Offering is also a really cost-effective item for your team. In addition, a Shiva's Guard goes along well with the icy theme of the hero, which not only gives you style points, but the aura in particular is great against enemy carries. And since you may have a Ghost Scepter already, it might not be too crazy to upgrade that bad boy into an Ethereal Blade. You have tons of magic damage and a high intelligence gain, making this an item that can help you deal a devastating amount of damage. And last but not least is the Refresher Orb, which can never be underestimated on a hero with such a powerful teamfight ultimate. Lich is mainly played as a lane support hero. You can take the solo offlane as well, but depending on the team composition, there might be a better hero suited for this. The gameplay, however, shouldn't be affected too much. You could also run Lich in a dual lane mid, as you can harass the enemy solo out of lane, as well as help your carry get free farm. Okay, so with that, let's talk a little bit about how to utilize his abilities. Frost Blast, when used in conjunction with Sacrifice, is the main reason why you're such a good lane support. Constantly using this for harassing is obviously great, as long as you keep in mind that you generally do not want to push the lanes. Keep in mind that there are actually 2 nukes in one with this spell. There's the initial nuke damage to the main target only, and then an additional small AoE spread afterward. the initial target will take both instances of damage. Of course, this spell doesn't only do damage, but slows both the movement speed and attack speed of enemies as well. This is why casting this on a carry early in a teamfight can be so helpful. Ice Armor isn't as effective early on, but will become really useful in the mid game. Try to keep it active on your carry as well as initiators. Remember to refresh it before a fight breaks out, since it can increase the survivability of your team by a lot. And with the low cooldown, there's no reason not to spam this in the mid to late game. Also keep in mind that this works on buildings, which can help against pushes. The debuff slows movement speed and attack speed by the same amount as Frost Blast, and will actually stack with it as well. This can provide quite a bit of slow in a short amount of time. Something to consider, however, is that the debuff from Ice Armor lasts half the time as it does with Frost Blast, and the debuff itself will have half the effect on ranged heroes. Nonetheless, it's still something to be spammed. Extra armor should never be taken for granted. In fact, using it on your own creep wave can be quite helpful as far as pushing purposes are concerned. Sacrifice is very powerful since it not only allows you to deny one of your own creeps, but you'll also gain experience from it. As we talked about earlier, in the beginning of the game, sacrificing a creep in the mid or in the off lane is a very common practice. This will not only provide less experience for the enemy, but will also help push the lane in your favor, or at the very least disrupt the creep equilibrium. This is what makes Lich so unique in the off lane. Unlike most heroes in that position who have a good escape mechanism, Lich relies on sacrifice to deny experience to the enemy and push the lane towards himself. Speaking of which, when you sacrifice a creep, try to do so out of the enemy's experience range. Unlike an older rendition of the spell, this doesn't actually deny them any experience, but will obviously do so if they're out of range. And then there's Lich's teamfight ultimate, Chain Frost. Although it deals a decent amount of damage either way, I would dare say it is probably the hardest ultimate to get its full effectiveness out of. In a perfect world, you'll wait for at least 2 targets to clump up so you can deal maximum damage. But in a lot of situations, using it to slow a single fleeing enemy may be worth it as well. I wouldn't equate this to a black hole or reverse polarity type ultimate that your team should rely on 100%, which is why you shouldn't reserve it for those special circumstances every time. Also remember that it bounces from creeps as well, so try to isolate your foes from them, unless a situation arises where you can actually use a creep to get an extra bounce on the enemy. And last but not least, in fact it may be the most important aspect of this spell, the first proc of Chain Frost will stun through magic immunity. This is something to always keep in mind as it seems to be prevalent time and time again. Friends of Lich are heroes that can force enemies into clumping up, therefore allowing your abilities to do a ridiculous amount of damage. Tusk, besides the icy theme, fits in really nicely since he can clump enemies up with his ice shards and keep them there with Sigil and Snowball. Enigma and Magnus are really good friends with Lich as well, since they can guarantee a deadly Chain Frost. Disruptor offers another deadly combination with his Kinetic Field and Static Storm. A special mention should go out to squishy hard carries like Anti-Mage, Faceless Void, and Spectre, who Lich can look after very effectively in the lane. Foes of Lich are heroes that can burn his mana, burst him down, have magic immunity, or just make him useless in other ways. Anti-Mage, although friends with Lich, is also one of your worst enemies as well. You might crush him early on in the laning stage, but he will stage his revenge later on by blinking on you and destroying you. As far as magic immunity is concerned, both Omni Knight and Juggernaut are really strong against you as well. Together with Healing Ward and Purification, they won't be bothered too much by you in the laning phase. Silencer, of course, is a foe of nearly any intelligence hero, as you rely heavily on casting spells, and if you can't do that, well, you're useless. A special mention should go out to Rubik, who can effectively use any of your spells. Just try not to give up Chain Frost. And last but not least is Chen. His creeps will tank up your Chain Frost in fights, and Hand of God will just heal them back up instantly. Additionally, he and other tower pushers are great against you as an offlane hero, since you'll be using Sacrifice whenever it's off cooldown. Thank you to Vikas and Synderen for helping write this guide. Remember to like and subscribe if you enjoy this kind of content. Thanks for watching guys, and until next time, this is SunsFan signing out.